to restrain themselves in such a time and use these little resources that are now being used on impeachment to actually fight COVID-19.
The chair of the Council of Governors speaking yesterday in a press conference, a statement that has aroused quite a couple of questions, I'm sure you can imagine. And joining us, and we'll start there, is the chair himself, Oparanya. Thank you so much, Chair, for making time for us this evening. And I want to pick up on that statement, an interesting one. Some would say that you're almost calling for the war on corruption to stop or be halted until the coronavirus is contained. Was that what you were alluding to yesterday, Governor?
Is that when I was talking about the impeachment?
Yes, that's correct.
Actually, let me tell you, thank you very much also for inviting me to this interview tonight.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to tell you that when I talked about that issue yesterday, and I think I have also talked it today, and I'm going to talk it here, mine was a plea. Because at the moment, you know very well that we are all putting together our resources to fight the coronavirus. And you can see from the statistics that we have, the figures that we get every day there is a continuous increase in the number of people infected. So mine was a plea because there are other alternatives of actually dealing with corruption cases. There are institutions already established, like EACC, that can deal with these issues. And the MCAs are free to report to such an institution, and they take up, and they have more experts to deal with this issue. But I thought, since now we have coronavirus, so many of our people have lost employment, and we are now thinking of opening the economy so that our people are able to come back and be able to get something to live on, that the resources that we have, we channel towards fighting the virus.
Okay.
Instead of the MCAs doing what they are doing, the impeachment. And you can see that now this impeachment are all over. It has happened in Kirinyaga. You can see what is happening in Kitui. You saw what my colleague was saying that was happening in Nakuru and other counties.
But
and in
Chair,
any case, in our society, yes?
Chair, I apologize for interrupting you, but let me ask you this. At a time like this, when, as you rightly put it, resources are limited, and there is a pandemic that has disrupted how life is happening, especially in the counties, isn't that a time when you would be advocating for greater accountability, which is what many of those MCAs are hoping for as they move these impeachment motions?
Yeah, but you can see that while they successfully impeached my colleague, Kirinyaga governor, the Senate was able to clear her, which means the Crown did not hold water for her to be impeached at the Senate level. And that's why I'm saying that there are even further institutions. And if you see the report that the Senate gave, they are saying that some of these cases should be referred to other institutions like EACC so that they can be investigated further. And you know very well that while we appreciate that this is a responsibility of the MCAs, but this responsibility, they have used it prudently. And I'm saying at this particular time, other institutions that they have capacity, they have the budget to do so, they can actually undertake that exercise, while us, as government family or devolution family, we are able to put our resources together to fight the coronavirus.
Okay, but Chair, I'm not sure I fully agree with that statement. You say that other institutions have the capacity and funding. I'll give you an example. A couple of years back, the former Auditor General, Edward Ouko, said he would need funding from Treasury for at least another 300 staffers to be able to properly audit the counties. He basically was admitting he did not have the capacity. Doesn't that then put pressure on the MCAs to be able to do what they can if they feel that the agencies that are in place don't have the capacity, aren't moving fast enough to audit counties properly?
We are not taking away that responsibility because that is a constitutional responsibility that has been given to the MCAs. And I agree with you.
But when you make
this moment,
when you make the statement,
at this moment,
what I'm saying is, when you make the statement you made yesterday, it sounds like you are. Please clarify.
Yeah, and if you, I think, if you say what I said, if you listen to what I said this was a plea. I was not ordering them that they should not do what they are doing, and I can repeat, I'm saying that this is a plea to them to exercise that responsibility carefully, because of what we are having now. You know that this year has been a difficult year for this country. We have had floods, we have had locusts, we have had the coronavirus is there with us. Even as we talk now, counties have not been funded up to this month that has ended today. The whole month, the counties have not been funded, and this is creating pressure, economic pressure to everybody. So I was saying, and if you look at some of those issues that are being raised, are not for this year. Some of these issues are for last year. So why can't we put our resources together to fight this virus? And of course, there are people who are being taken to court, even for cases of 2004. You can see what has happened to my brother Waluke. These are cases of 2004, and it is being had now.
Okay, interesting point that you bring out there. So in your view tonight, there are MCAs watching this program who are tabling an impeachment motion. They are at some point within that process. How would you advise them then to deal with governors they consider errant, they consider having committed abuse of office at a time like this? What would you tell them tonight?
What I will advise them that this is the time to come together. And sometimes if you engage each other, some of these issues are based on rumors and so on, but engagement at the county level between the executive and the MCAs is actually necessary. And if they feel there is something that goes beyond, of course they can provide a report. Even my own MCAs have given me reports on some errant executive or chief officers, and have been able to take appropriate action. And if they feel at this moment that this is a pressing issue, they are institutional KICC to take over such an issue and deal with it conclusively, because their work is actually to do that, and they have the capacity to do so.
Okay, but for those who choose to move that impeachment motion, you say that is the wrong move? Even because...
No, if those who choose to do so, I have no problem, because that is their responsibility, and that's constitutionally their right to do so. So mine is a plea as the chairman of the Council of Governors.
And once...
Because of the problems we are undergoing.
Okay, because some would ask, so do we then wait, many Kenyans tonight would then contemplate, do the problems end then, and then we can focus on these other things? That's where the disconnect is.
I'm not saying you wait. But I'm saying you exercise that responsibility responsibly, and you can use other alternatives. There are many alternatives, and I've given you the alternatives that are there. But at this moment, furthermore, we are toward the end of the financial year. We are busy. We must have our budgets in place. And I don't think that particular account now will have its budget in place. I've talked to my colleague in Kitui. Her budget is not yet ready. And this obviously affects other issues, more issues even. Especially, when two bulls fight, the sufferer is the grass. So the Wananchi now are the ones suffering.
Okay, before we wrap up this, because I want to talk to you a little bit about COVID-19 preparedness, I did mention to you earlier that the former Auditor General had shared concerns about the lack of adequate staffing, within his team to be able to adequately audit the counties. Could counties take advantage of the fact that there really isn't sufficient capacity and financing to properly audit them to carry out graft? Is that something that would come to your mind when you think about what we've had happening in certain counties in previous years, from overpriced wheelbarrows, for example, or relatives, getting tenders that they should not have access to?
You see, as counties, we have a responsibility also of strengthening our internal audit. I remember very well myself when I took over, we had only 4 staff in the internal audit. These have progressively increased to 38. And this, of course, help also the internal audit help. And in the other day when I had issues, I had also to seek the assistance of the internal audit at the national level, so that we are able at the county level to strengthen internal controls within our own system. But I also would plead that the Auditor General needs to be funded well so that they are able to actually exercise their work properly. They do their work properly, and actually, so far, I can see that particular office has really expanded. Like now, we have regional offices which never used to be there. In Kakamega, we have a regional office which covers about 15 counties. Mm-hmm. They are there. They're well established. They have had they have constructed a building, they are more staffed. So I will just urge that the Treasury gives them more money, and us as governors, we also strengthen our internal controls by also making sure that we have internal audits, internal auditors, department properly established. Okay. And also we have the audit committees in place. This will definitely assist us in reports and so on, so that the loopholes that are there actually can be sealed.
Chair, there's something interesting you've mentioned. You've said no money has gotten to the counties yet from the national government. And yet the national government has been talking about a 5 billion Kenya shilling allocation to the counties. That hasn't gotten to the counties yet, has it? Is that what you're saying tonight?
I've said the division of revenue, shareable revenue for this month that has ended today, for June. Now, no county has received that money. As I talk now, the National Treasury or the national government owes counties about 30 billion that they have not dispersed. However, the 5 billion, that one was given, and I think all counties have received the 5 billion, and most counties have been going through supplementary budget to ensure that it is captured within our budget. And also, the counties made their own environments as COVID started, because most of them had exhausted their emergency fund and created a fund, and I think they put together about 6.1 billion for that purpose.
Governor, I'm asking you that question because next week a lot of Kenyans are hoping, expecting that President Uhuru Kenyatta will reopen, obviously, the counties that have been locked down and allow a lot more movement within the country, which then makes one question the preparedness of various counties for an influx of people from other counties. So, for example, tonight I'd like to know from you, what is the state of preparedness of your county, Kakamega County, when it comes to COVID-19? Where are you in terms of ventilators, ICU beds and isolation beds, Governor?
Now, let me tell you that we had a meeting, we had an extraordinary summit last week, and this was one of the major agenda that we discussed at that meeting of opening the economy. Because you know very well, if this is done, then obviously you expect a spike because of movement of people. And I think, I don't know what the president will announce on 6th, but as Council of Governors, we have advised that the economy should be gradually be opened because most of our people are suffering. And I know most counties are now prepared because all counties, at least they have the county COVID-19 response committee, which is chaired by the governor and co-chaired by the county commissioner. And some of the counties actually have devolved these committees to sub-counties and even others to wards.
Fair enough.
So sensitization has taken place up to the grassroots level, and this continues. But even you remember over the weekend, I was also sensitizing the elders on this particular because they are key stakeholders in this process.
Fair enough, Chair.
As I talk now,
Chair,
most counties.
Yes, Chair. I want to interrupt you because I want to get specific. I asked you earlier, where is Kakamega? Where are you on ventilators? Where are you on ICU beds, Chair?
Now, let me tell you, in Kakamega, we have over 222 beds, isolation beds.
Okay.
I have 80 on order. They are arriving this week. I will be on 302.
Mm-hmm.
This is strictly for isolation. Don't count these other normal diseases. If all are put together, I will actually be having over 1,000 beds. But for COVID-19, at the moment I'm 2,200. At the end of the week, I will be on 302, and I have 10 ventilators. And in 15 days, I'm setting up an ICU unit in the new referral hospital, in which I've been constructing for some time. I will have 10 beds. Already now, as I talk, I have another 12.
Okay.
So I will have 22 ICU beds.
So you'll have 22 ICU beds, you'll have 10 ventilators, and you have 302 isolation.
Every ICU bed will have a ventilator. So if I have 22 ICU beds, it will mean I will have 22 ventilators. Because it's a package. What I'm doing is a package. Every ICU bed must have a ventilator, must have a monitor, it has have the oxygenator, all those put together. Because
your critics were alleging today that you don't have ventilators, you don't have ICU beds.
How? But this can be audited, isn't it? And in fact, I've told the COVID subcommittee at the Senate that they should go around and actually confirm that counties have this.
Okay. These ICU facilities that you are setting up now will need specialized manpower for them. Are you taking nurses, doctors from your existing medical infrastructure, or have you been able to hire new ones? With the government stating that there would be 5,000 or 6,000 health workers to be deployed across the country, have the new number arrived in your county?
What I can tell you, in my county, I'm not hiring new doctors. We are using the doctors that are there. I have over 80 doctors, and I have about 3,000 nurses. Some of these nurses have already been trained on COVID-19, and also the doctors have been trained. And we are happy that the national government, through this UHC support, we have been able to receive another about 300 more health staff. So I feel with what I have, because of the constraint of finances, I think that can do for the time being. COVID-19 will be there for some time. Even the money we have got, we will continue hiring staff gradually as we continue.
Okay, and even as we wrap this up, county preparedness generally, again, if next week is the reopening, what percentage would you put it? Would you say 50% of the counties are ready? Would you say 70% or 30%?
You seem to be very sure that the economy is going to be reopened.
That is if. Chair, I've said that is if.
Next week.
That is if. That is if. We are looking at scenarios.
What I feel, I know there is pressure. There is pressure on the president to reopen the economy. But what I can warn you, Mr. Mwaura, is that this must be done very carefully. You remember there are countries, there are states in America that open, they are now closing. In China, it has happened, again it's closing. So this must be done very carefully. We can open other priority areas. Like you see now, restaurants are opening gradually, while bars are still closed. The curfew is still on. It moved from 7 to 9, and maybe airlines can start local ones, while the international ones are still suspended. So we must do this gradually while we watch what happens next. We don't want to be in a situation where we open everything at once, and then tomorrow again we are rushing to close because we cannot cope up.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for that. Let me read some of the feedback that our viewers are sharing at this time. The hashtag is Newsnight and the SMS line is 22422. James Mwadegu is saying, and this is in regards to the first discussion I had with the Chair there, MCAs are not mad market people. They are the people's representatives. It's only that they're not being guided accordingly. If they seek support and assistance from the EACC and the DCI to have factual cases, 80% of governors would be out of office. Okay, that's the view of James there.
Okay.
And I'll give you a chance, Chair, to say that as your final comment. Frederick Amagola says a bar should be raised for MCA qualifications, so they should have at least a diploma or a degree. Otherwise, the current ones are brokers who don't understand the rules. Okay. And SMSs, remember 22422 is the SMS line. Honorable Kagwetha Noah is saying the government should stop politicians from moving around the country. They should work from home. Okay. And one last one here. Jared Ogweno, why must we concentrate on COVID and forget about runaway corruption? A very serious problem. Governor, a question that someone has asked there saying if MCAs were to liaise with the EACC, 80% of governors would go home. What do you make of such a statement?
And that's what I encourage them to do. I encourage them to liaise with the EACC, and if 80% of the governors are found corrupt, they should be ready to go home.
They should be ready to go. And one concern from a viewer that politicians, senior politicians, are moving around the country as if there are no restrictions in place. We have seen you, Chair, in different parts of the country as well, and in some that look like political meetings, contrary to public health guidelines at this time. How would you respond to that, Chair?
Let me tell you that I sit at the National Coordinating Committee, and some of these health protocols are discussed at that level. I will be the last one to violate any protocol because I'm part of those particular protocols. And I make sure that if I am around, I observe the distances that is required. I'm in a mask as required. So I make sure. And there has not been any political meeting. What we are doing is part of what is being encouraged, that all stakeholders must be sensitized about COVID-19. And you know, the older generation are more vulnerable than the young generation. And those are our targets, that they should be educated. And what was in Kakamega, you can even call your colleagues, and that's what we are doing.
Was it necessary for you to physically be there? Because when CS Mutahi Kagwe says, for example, avoid any public gathering, don't go to them, is what he said. Isn't that advice that would also be applicable to you, despite the position you hold? Yeah, that is advisable, that we can take, we can look into and take it seriously, actually. If he feels that meeting more than 100 people, that's a danger, then we must follow that. Okay, but he has the experts. He has a ministry with the experts. Okay, he has made it clear that that is an issue, and yet we see politicians still going round. It seems there's a law for two different types of Kenyans, and that's the concern for some tonight. I think that's up to the police to enforce, to make sure that all the protocols as prescribed by the Ministry of Health are followed to the letter. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. The Chair of the Council of Governors, Governor of Kakamega County, speaking with us this evening on, of course, the war on corruption and the statement he made yesterday, and of course, COVID-19 and county preparedness. We take a quick break now on Newsnight, but when we come back, ironically, we hadn't quite planned it that